We're here with Checkers, our resident Shetland and show pony. So Checkers has not yet been broken in, so we only work him on the long reins in the cooler lunge. We use the cooler lunge to keep him working in a round connected frame while staying straight. So basically it gives me more control over where Checkers is putting his body with me having to do less. As you can see, I have Checkers on quite a loose contact on the long reins, and I only have him on the long reins so I can practice steering and manoeuvring him around the poles, through the poles, and then over the poles. And as you can see, I have a trusty assistant here in the form of a boxer called Mika, who's helping me. I don't mind if the dogs are on the arena or get involved, as long as they don't get in the way or get under the horse's feet, so that there's not a situation where it becomes dangerous. I'm a firm believer in horses learning to deal with situations that are not part of the norm, except for the fact that the dogs are part of the norm here, but you know what I mean. Because then they learn to deal with situations as they arise rather than having a panic if something untoward happens. So essentially you want to train them to take their cues off of you. So if I'm not reacting to something that's potentially worrying, they don't need to react. And it's always easier if you establish this from the ground first, because it then does transfer under saddle. And you can see that Mika just ran down the bank, came out of nowhere, and Checkers didn't even bat an eyelid. I have had clients' horses here. One when an owner was riding it one day, and a child came down the bank, and the horse bucked. So this is why I don't believe in an insular environment. And you also have to think the horse was actually with us for a reason in the first place, and one of those reasons was its reaction to adverse situations. So that was quite disappointing that we'd had the horse for a couple of weeks, and then and it was their child as well, I might add, that went down the bank and created that situation. So needless to say, that horse stayed for a couple more weeks. And back to Checkers. So as you can see, for a Shetland, he has quite nice ground cover and movement, and it's because we are working him in a round, consistent, connected frame, asking him to engage his hindquarters and lift up his back and lift the thoracic sling and engage. And then we practice steering, which is why I have him on the long reins versus just a lunge line. For the poles, I've just set up a couple of little routines of the square and then the 3 and 3 poles, so we can just work around between each set of poles and go from pole to pole. It would help if I was a little bit more mobile. We could do a lot more in trot, but you can utilize this exercise to do some transitions back to walk and then back to trot again. So basically you make the exercise work for you. The more I work Checkers over the trot and canter poles, the better he gets, and the more enthusiastic he gets about it. So he's really starting to line himself up to the poles now, rather than me having to hold him in place. Having the cooler lunge on helps because it's got the side reins that help keep him straight and stop him bulging out of either shoulder, or restrict him from bulging out of either shoulder. He can still bend, but it restricts how much he can bend or how much he can overbend. And then basically I just want to move him around. I'm using the square for some changes of direction. The square being a little bit more open, he doesn't have to aim for the center of the pole. Oops, there's a fence there. He can go to corner or side to side. It doesn't really matter as long as he's placing his feet over those poles and lifting his back and he's letting me steer him easily. It's a good way to work them evenly off both reins as well. And you're just looking to keep that forward momentum and the rhythm and the swing through the body. So that's it for us today. Thank you for watching. We are now offering lessons with the cooler lunge and long reining and lunge.